Hello, trading is closed on July 5, 2017. Let's go over our calls. I felt the most likely thing for today was a gap and a prompt move outside the range. We gapped up, promptly moved outside the range. I thought the next most likely thing was we close a little change. Little change means to me under 4 points. That happened too. I looked for a pattern with a low early in the day. For tomorrow, I expect to see a pattern with a high early in the day. That doesn't preclude gapping down first, but I'd like to see a high early in the day. The pattern tends to rally into the close most of the time, but if not, it can drop down in a pretty much a straight line. We had some MEJT signals. Here it's ultimately lower prices will print, gives us a target of 24.2204, no time limit. You don't usually have to wait long. Says the whole rally is false. Gives us a price target of 24.24.30, most likely by early Friday. There was a weak buy in the afternoon and its target already printed. So we have these targets here. We also have a pattern where you started out low, rallied all day long, and you couldn't close over the middle of the day highs. It's a negative pattern. It should lead to lower prices unless we have a gap up, or let's say a gap, and promptly move over these highs. What's really negative here is we've been rallying 3 days. We couldn't even close over this high back here. So that's a lot of energy without much to show for it. Here was your wall. Here's your hole in the wall gap. Typical rule is you go under the wall, find support there, and that rallies. So for tomorrow, I think it's a negative pattern unless we gap up. Now, MEJT is arguing that it's not going to gap up. Here's what I think is going on. We showed this was A and that's B. I've recounted this. We have 1, 2, 3. Here's your ABC with a Fibonacci relationship at the high. Here's your B, where I did a Fibonacci retracement of gold A. And then C, if that C completes wave 4, and C is equal to 0.382 times A. So if that's the count, we should start wave 5 down right from the open. As usual, if the call misses, it'll be obvious before the market opens, and that's always possible because the employment report, I believe, is coming out. Well, actually, that's not coming out until Friday, so forget that. Well, let's take a look at a pattern just for amusement. This is a pattern called 3 Peaks in a Domed House. It was described by George Lindsay, who's a pretty famous guy, back in 1971. He gave some pretty impressive examples. Many people believe Lindsay believe this pattern. It's supposed to be quite reliable, but it occurs so infrequently, I'm just not sure. I've seen some people who use this all the time and they made erroneous calls all the time. So I'm going to go over what it is, but I'm not certain it's going to work. I don't really use it. I don't believe the prediction, but it's as perfect an iteration of the pattern as I've ever seen, so let's just go over what it says. The 3 peaks have a pretty well-defined structure. I haven't labeled all the points because it's too confusing, but after an initial rally, you then have peaks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this consolidation lasts around 8 months, which this does. That completes the 3 peaks, with all these peaks around the same level. Then you have a dividing structure 8, 9, 10. It's a sharp decline, 8, 9, and 10. Then you have a domed house with 3 stories. Story 1 goes from point 11 to point 14, so 11, 12, 13, 14. Story 2 goes from 15 to 20. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And the last story goes from 21 to 25. So 21, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 is coming. And the distance between 14 and 23 is a little over 7 months, which it is. Well, that's 24. This could be 25, but the point of his prediction is after point 25 prints, the house collapses. You get a point 26 around the same level as 20. You get a point 27 around the same level as 15. And then you get point 28 all the way down to the level of point 10, which is 1810.10. I don't believe that, but that's what the pattern says, and the pattern's pretty perfect up to now. If it happens, you know what it is. If it doesn't happen, I'm not surprised. It looks like too much of a drop to me. But for tomorrow, unless we gap up, I expect to see lower prices. We could be starting wave 5 down. And if I'm wrong, it's obvious before the open. Here are the targets, and we'll see what happens.